What's up, YouTube? It's Coach Cory, and today we're gonna rank the best and worst brawlers in Brawl Ball. That's right, so let's get into it. Alright, so before I get into my rankings, I just want to preface it by saying Brawl Ball is a very team-oriented game mode. How you work with your team is definitely very important. So just because a brawler is low on the rankings does not mean you can win with it. Of course, your team comp and how your teammates play is going to be very important. So with that in mind, though, let's start out at the bottom of the rankings and work our way up. And we're going to start with a brawler that's the worst in not just Brawl Ball. She was number 19 in another ranking of mine recently as well, and it's Piper. Piper is just not suited for Brawl Ball. She can get some individual one-on-one kills, but there's a decent amount of walls and cover in Brawl Ball, so it's hard for her to just straight up snipe people out, and her star power is not that useful except on pinhole punt. So otherwise, she's just not very good. Her super is not very useful in Brawl Ball, as you're probably more likely to destroy your own walls than the enemy walls. I don't want to talk about this more. Piper's just not good in Brawl Ball. Okay, at 18, we have a brawler who's honestly just really okay in basically everything in Brawl Ball, but just is lacking the really good qualities to make him that useful, and that's Bo. Bo just doesn't do enough damage. His mines can destroy walls, but because they're not useful at a certain instance, you can't use them to make a big push, which is definitely needed in Brawl Ball. Bo is just not super useful. He doesn't have enough damage. He has a good amount of health, but he doesn't win enough matchups either. So Bo is just okay, really not that great in Brawl Ball. Okay, 17 is Pam. Pam has some useful qualities. Has a lot of health and can use her turret to keep some of her teammates alive, which can be definitely useful in Brawl Ball. But as a support character, she doesn't deal enough damage and she doesn't break walls. And those are two very important things in Brawl Ball. So for that reason particularly, she's just not great in Brawl Ball. Alright, 16, we have a brawler who's pretty good on one map, Triple Dribble, and that's Barley. Barley good on Triple Dribble because throwers are good there, but otherwise just doesn't do enough damage, doesn't break walls, and dies too easily. So Barley is just not the most useful in Brawl Ball. Alright, at 15, we have a little bit of a similar story, and it's Poco. Poco just doesn't do enough damage, doesn't break walls. Poco is actually pretty good in Brawl Ball in a tank meta, as can keep the teammates alive really well, and that heal can be clutch for making really big pushes and scoring goals. So Poco can be useful, but just not good in this meta particularly, and otherwise doesn't have enough damage, doesn't fare well versus a lot of the brawlers you're going to be facing right now in Brawl Ball. So Poco, just okay in Brawl Ball. Alright, 14, we have the Bear Master, Nita. Nita's not bad in Brawl Ball, has okay damage and has good health, which is really what brings her up in Brawl Ball. And you can use that bear to make a push, but it's not the most useful thing, doesn't break walls, can't jump any sort of way as sort of an aggro character you might want to, either to break walls or be able to be really offensive. So Nita can have a role in Brawl Ball, is definitely playable, but is not really great. Alright, 13, we have a brawler who can put out decent pressure, but is definitely better in a tank meta, and that's Jessie. Jessie, with her turret, can deal a decent amount of pressure or damage. She can be a little bit defensive with that turret, so she can definitely have a use, but overall, she doesn't have enough impact or immediate damage in a game, and she just doesn't have that controlling factor. Her turret is too easy to kill often in Brawl Ball, as there's a lot of brawlers who can break walls or deal a lot of damage from range in the current meta, so Jessie just not super great. Alright, at 12, we have Brock. Personally, I think he's not that bad. He can break walls definitely really well, and he has okay damage. His reload is a bit slow, and he doesn't have a ton of damage. He's not great versus enemy Mortises either, so he's not amazing. He definitely has some good qualities, though, so you can use him in certain ways. Alright, at 11, we have Darrell, and you know what? I'm not going to explain my ranking from just yet. I'll explain him after the next one, and you'll see why. Alright, at 10, we have Shelley. Shelley right now is just okay. In general, she works pretty well in Brawl Ball, as her super is really useful for Brawl Ball. It breaks down walls, it stuns people, it pushes them back, and it can deal a ton of damage, and there's definitely some close range opportunities in Brawl Ball, especially on Triple Dribble. She can be really good there. So Shelley definitely has a place in Brawl Ball, and when she gets probably any sort of buff, she'll become really good in Brawl Ball again. She's definitely had moments where she was really good in Brawl Ball. Right now, she's just okay, though. She's definitely better in tank meta as well. And let's go into my next part. At 9 and at 8, I'm going to finish these two guys off at once. And this is why, because both of them are tanks. So we're going to go over 11, 9, and 8 at the same time. All tanks. Tanks are not that great right now, but they're definitely decent in Brawl Ball, especially if you do the triple tank comp, where you're doing all 3 tanks. That comp is definitely a good comp. It's just so much health, so even if you're dying, you're running in, you're able to defend pretty well. You just have so much health, and you're invincible at the start, so it can be hard to score on that comp, and it can be a lot of pressure and health all at the same time. But otherwise, they just don't match up well in this meta, as there's a lot of medium and long range brawlers who can deal a ton of damage fast and can just mow down tanks. So they're not great in that way. But otherwise, they're not that bad. You're seeing them in the middle of the ranking for a reason, because they have a place in Brawl Ball, but they're not amazing in Brawl Ball. Okay, now we're in the top 7. At 7, we have Dynamite. Dynamite is a strong brawler in pretty much every single game mode right now for good reason. His Dynamite just deals so much damage, and in Brawl Ball, his super can be useful for sure, as it does a lot of damage, and it breaks down walls. The main weakness for Dynamite is Mortis, right? Mortis is good in Brawl Ball, and he counters Dynamite really well. In general, too, Brawl Ball on pinhole punts and backyard bowl can be a bit open, which Dynamite isn't particularly suited for, but he's still not bad just because he does so much damage. So Dynamite is a good brawler in general, not particularly suited for Brawl Ball, but he's just strong overall. Okay, now we're in the top 6, and these guys are probably good on most all Brawl Ball maps. These are all really strong brawlers, and for a reason. At number 6, we have Spike. Spike has the ability to deal a lot of damage, and he's very controlling. He's a bit like Nita in that he can peek around corners and do a lot of chip damage on people without being hit. So Spike can be a very controlling brawler, and he's also a very defensive brawler as well with his super, and he can just deal good area damage overall. Spike is a pretty strong brawler. Okay, at number 5, maybe this will surprise some of you, as earlier he was the premier Brawl Ball brawler, and that's Mortis. Mortis is at number 5 because it's not a great meta for him, and well, maybe you could call it the auto aim meta. Auto aim is not a great meta for Mortis, as a lot of people are able to just deal a ton of damage to Mortis really fast as he's trying to score. It's a bit of a mid-range, long-range meta right now as well, so a lot of these guys are damaging Mortis before he has a chance to get to them or do a lot of damage to the enemy team. He can still be really good, though, and that's why he's at 5. He's no longer maybe in the top 3 like he would have been before, but he's still a really good brawler in Brawl Ball. And if you have an amazing Mortis player, they can easily be some of the best brawler in Brawl Ball. If you have a really good Mortis player, he can be the top of this ranking, but I think there's not that many people who are that good with him in Brawl Ball. I think he's a really high skill level brawler, so that's why you're seeing him a bit lower than he might have been otherwise. Alright, at number 4, we have Ricochet. Ricochet not particularly meant for Brawl Ball, as he doesn't break walls, but he does a ton of damage, which is definitely very, very useful, always, no matter what game mode, and his bounce shots are just really strong. Ricochet's just a really strong brawler in general right now. His bounce shots can go so fast, can be really hard to dodge, and to me, damage is always king. He's good on a lot of different maps, and he works well with a lot of different team comps in the current meta, as he can deal with a lot of these long-range guys pretty well, and that works great if you have a good team comp built with Ricochet in mind. You do need a certain team comp with Ricochet in mind, in my opinion, since he can't break walls, so he does rely on his teammates to do that, but instead of that, he can kill a lot of the enemy brawlers really well, which was great defensively and for making any sort of push, just wipe out the enemy team. Ricochet is great at doing that. Alright, top 3 in my rankings for Brawl Ball. These guys are the best in Brawl Ball and it's definitely a step above everyone else. At number 3, we have Colts. Colts is just really good for Brawl Ball. He does a ton of damage, and unlike Ricochet, he breaks walls, which is so key in Brawl Ball. You honestly maybe could have argued easily for Colt to have a higher ranking, but 3 is definitely a good ranking, and I think these other guys deserve theirs as well. But Colt's ability to break walls, do a ton of damage. He's the best at it by far in Brawl Ball. So Colt can be key to any team, and a good Colt can carry. All right, at number 2, we have a brawler whose super is just groundbreaking, and that's Tara. Tara can take over games, can easily stop any sort of push by herself, or she can start one by supering together 2 or 3 of the enemy team and just killing them all like that. Especially in the current meta where there's a lot of mid and low health brawlers, Tara takes advantage of their low health and just kills them really easily. So Tara is great at that. She does break walls as well. She has a decent amount of health, so she's definitely a good option on any team, on any map in Brawl Ball. Tara is definitely strong. Okay, at number 1, if you haven't figured it out, well, it's the most OP brawler in the game right now, and that's Crow. Crow is just a little bit broken. His poison is always really good no matter what the meta is. It's just so useful at making the enemy not be able to heal, put out constant pressure, but on top of that, put in his jump. So let's say you poison them all for a couple seconds now. They're getting to mid-low health, and guess what? You have your jump. You're going to jump in, go right in, and look, you're auto-aiming spam. And all of a sudden, you got 2 or 3 people dead. Maybe you die, but even then, there's only 1 person left, and they're probably low health as well because you've been poisoning them and you jumped in. So all you need is your 2 teammates to kill 1 person and go in and score that goal. And Crow is just so good at doing stuff like that. Crow is just overpowered in a lot of different ways. He's really, really strong. He's not particularly meant for Brawl Ball. He doesn't break walls, but he's just so strong in so many different ways. He can be aggressive. He can be defensive. Crow is just a really strong brawler. Alright guys, what did you think of my rankings? Let me know in the comments what you agreed or disagreed with. Would you change any of these rankings? Guys, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you later.